Okay, so now we are in Unit 4, Chapter 3, Lesson 2. This lesson is focusing on converting decimals to fractions and fractions back to decimals. So to begin, the first thing we'll talk about is how to convert decimals to fractions. Okay, so the steps are listed there. Step 1, digits of the decimal are used for the numerator, so the number that you see will be the numerator. And then the value of that number, the place value of that number, will be your denominator. And then we'll reduce the fraction if needed. So looking at the first example, number 1 here, notice that the 8 is the digit, so it's in the numerator. And then we pay attention to the place value. So this 0 is in the tenths with the THS place. And then this is in the hundredths with THS place. So that's why the denominator is out of 100, because that is the place value of the 8. Okay, I tried to write hundreds there, it didn't work out. Okay. So sometimes we have to refer back to our place value chart. So now I have 8 over 100, and this can reduce. We have to first break down both the numerator and denominator into the prime factorizations. So we have 8, which breaks down to times 2 times 2. 100 is 10 times 10, so we have 2 times 5, 2 times 5. Notice that we have 2 2's canceling, and we're left with 1 2 on top, and 5 times 5 on bottom is 25. So the fraction reduces 2 over 25. Let's look at example 2. Oops, sorry. So I think I accidentally went to the wrong one here. Sorry, let me get back to where we need to be. Okay, so for example number 2 here, we have 4.8. So whenever you have a value in front of the decimal, so to the left of the decimal, those represent whole values. So think of a mixed number. That is what you will create when you're turning it into a fraction. So 4 is our whole. We have 4 wholes. And then our 8 is in the tenths with the THS place. So 8 on top and 10 on bottom. Now in order to reduce, we need to convert our mixed number into an improper fraction. So in order to do that, remember we do 10 times 4 plus 8. So 10 times 4 is 40 plus 8 is 48 on top. And we keep the denominator the same over 10. Now we need to break 48 into its prime factors. 48 is 6 times 8. So notice we have 2 times 2 times 2, which makes 8. And then 2 times 3 makes 6. 10 is 2 times 5. And then notice we have a 2 that cancels out from top and bottom. So on top we're left with 8 times 3, because we have the 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. And that gives us 24. And on the bottom we just have 5. Now we're almost done. However, it's still an improper fraction after reducing, so we need to convert it back to a mixed number. So recall, in order to do that, you simply divide. So we want to see how many times 5 goes into 24. Well, 5 times 4 is 20, so let's subtract that, and we have a remainder of 4. We take that remainder and put it over our denominator, which was 5. So 4 and 4/5 is the mixed number. Okay, it's reduced and it's a mixed number. So that is the fractional form of 4.8, 4 and 4/5. Okay, now I want you to try 1, 2, 3, and 4. Be sure to check in with your teacher to see if this is correct as soon as she calls you back. Let's scroll down. So now let's take a look at how to take a fraction and convert it to a decimal. Well, in order to do that, you simply divide. So we'll take our 4 and see how many times it goes into 1. And obviously 4 does not go into 1 at all, so we put a 0. Now, we add our decimal and a 0, so now we have 10 underneath. How many times will 4 go into 10? 4 goes into 10 at least 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. So subtract. 10 take away 8 leaves 2. So we extend, because 4 cannot go into 2. We need to bring down another 0. and say how many times will 4 go into 20? 5 times. Now when I subtract, there is no remainder. So the decimal form of 1 over 4 is 0.25. It makes sense. 1 out of 4 quarters is 25 cents. Let's look at example 2. So if you have a mixed number, in order to find the decimal, we need to first convert it to an improper fraction. So we did 2 times 3, which is 6, plus 2, which is 8 over 3. Now we can divide just like we did in the example 1. So how many times will 3 go into 8? Well, let's see here. 3 times 2 is 6, times 3 is 9. So it goes 2 times. 3 times 2 is 6. I have 2 left over. Now usually we would just do, we would put the 2 over 3 if we wanted the mixed number. But remember, we're converting to a decimal. So we're going to insert a decimal here, and we're going to continue to carry this out. And we'll drop down to 0. 3 goes into 20 how many times? Well, 6 times 3 is 18. So that drops down to 0. And now we have 3 goes into 20 again. So this looks like this is going to be a repeating decimal. So after a while you can just stop and you can put the repeating bar over it. So the decimal form of 2 2/3 is 2.6 repeating. You could also round it. You can say 2.7 or 2.67 depending on how far you want to take your decimal place out. Okay, so now let's scroll down. We have 4 problems for you to try, and then you'll be checking in with your teacher to see if that's correct. That is the completion of this lesson. Pay attention to the assignment that you have to complete. So page 114, you're only doing 1 through 5, 26, 36, and 43 on that page. And then on page 115, you're going to do exercise B 1 through 3, and then page 117, B 1 through 8. There's also extra online practice and an online game for converting between fractions and decimals. This is the completion of the lesson. If you still have questions, pay attention to the videos that are throughout the lesson. You can use those. They'll be great resources, and also when you meet with your teacher. Okay, this completes Unit 4, Chapter 3, Lesson 2, Converting Decimals of Fractions, Fractions to Decimals.